This episode is sponsored by SKS Luxury Appliances. If you've spent time around Signature Kitchen Suite, one thing designers notice right away is the technology. The interface feels familiar and intuitive because it's the same engineering that comes from LG, the company that produces the systems used in many of the luxury vehicles people drive today. Clients recognize it instantly and know how to navigate it, but SKS is also investing in designers through their Designer Rewards program and by sponsoring IDC. If you're specifying kitchens for serious cooks, give SKS a look. Learn more at sksappliances.com. SKS, built for people who truly love cooking. Hi, this is Laurie from Interior Design Community, and we have a very special guest today. Chris, tell us a little bit about your business. Now, you and I have known each other, I feel like almost since the beginning of Interior Design Community. Is that right?
I think so. I was introduced through, we had Victoria, we have Veronica helped, getting me tied into Blog Tour and things. There was, it's the internet, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it was through the community, and yeah, we've been talking, and we've been talking about Europe a lot since then.
I know, because your dreamy little purchase of an apartment in Paris. I am so jealous because I always that's a fantasy of mine. I'm constantly following all those sites that on Instagram that you can get this cheap house in Italy or this one in France. And I think of it all the time. My kids are here, so that's why I'm here.
You can always bring them with you.
I know. I've thought about it. They're stubborn. They don't want to. They don't want to go. But
okay. So let's see. How did we get to be able to get that chateau? Right.
Right.
I work for my wife, Jody, who owns LG Squared, and LG Squared is a residential design firm. We do architecture, interiors. We also do mechanical design. We do plumbing design, electrical. We also design the structure when it's a wood frame house, complicated structures, we invite the structural engineer to play along. But she's had the business since 2006, and I joined in about 2012. Because I had gotten into a niche in the market in construction or design and construction, a thing called building science. And it's a whole industry now. It's a whole thing where we're looking at how buildings are failing. And so from indoor air quality failures to rot and thermal control failures. So many things that we know about how buildings fail and the yucky things and the bad things that make houses not purchasable or, that make them fall down. And so this building science is really looking at how we make the houses last forever or last longer than 20 years, but last a really long time, like the buildings in Europe.
Right.
What are we learning from them? Well, they didn't have insulation. They shed water. They were leaky, but they don't have mold in the same way. They do get mold sometimes because it's all exposed to a lot of water, but it's all about trying to get your, everything protected. And now we're learning what caused all these issues. And now we're trying to back up and say, all right, let's make all future homes not fail.
Wouldn't that be a dream?
I
just think about it all the time because of what is going on. When I look at, I follow all the Instagram accounts you probably do with home inspectors and new builds, and you see this lack of quality and things that feel very rushed and very, assembly line.
Yes.
Quick and easy. When I lived in Arizona, so my husband and I moved to Arizona for a while. I'm from New Hampshire, where the houses are old. I grew up in I think 200 or 300-year-old house, and that my parents redid. And when I moved to Arizona, it's kind of got this resort vibe, right? But the house that we bought was in the 80s. And at first you're just like, whoa, this looks so new compared to what I was used to. It had a pool, it had a little bit of grass, it had 3 bedrooms and a front parlor and open kitchen, open floor plan, huge cathedral ceiling, all the things you see. But you live there long. I'm walking on the floor from the tile to the carpeted living room, and I get a nail in my foot, and I'm like, oh, what's going on? It's tacked down over cement. The walls were all that scraped in. And we were watching someone build a house right near us because this was in 2003-ish.
Yeah.
literally chicken wire and foam,
No,
literally. It
no,
was like an
in the
igloo,
in the
like
foam insulation?
it was so crazy to watch this house go up. I was like, "This cannot be real." Like, I don't
What?
understand. And then they stucco over it. Yeah, yeah. So, very little wood. I mean, it had a lot of, like, wood with then they'd put foam. They'd spray foam between 2 things of chicken wire, and then they would stucco it.
Over the spray foam. Let's see that house now.
Yeah, yeah,
Or
and
maybe
I mean, the
or
house
maybe
I
we
lived in was, I think, in the late '80s, and
oh,
like I said, it was early 2000s, and I was like, "This house is falling apart. This
yeah,
house fe already feels like it's falling
sure.
apart," and that everything was done with a texture, so you wouldn't see how badly things were done, you know, and I don't think at first you that first week you're in it, you're like, "Whoa, this look
Yeah,
feels so new and modern and cool," and then anybody who's lived in a house that is older,
yeah,
you notice, "My gosh, this is so badly made."
yeah,
And I'm sure there are a lot of people listening right now that are experiencing the same things. I mean, I
sure,
know some designers who live all over the place are that are just like cringe at the new construction and the
sure.
quality of the new construction and the shortcuts. And it's not I'm not going to throw that all on builders or architects or tradespeople because, you know, it's hard to get good quality materials at a reasonable price. It's hard to get
Sure.
timelines to work right. I think there's a lot of rush on everybody's part. You know, we
Yeah,
all have feel that like anxiety to rush through and get everything to completion. But what we're losing here we're is the idea we're making like a place that somebody needs to live in a healthy way and is a long-term investment and it is really grounded in like safety and
yeah,
well-being, you know?
yeah, and a lot of the people you're talking about, whether it's not blaming a builder, architect, or someone. It's just they don't know what they don't know. It's the usual. It's and they don't understand what like misinformation. You know, there's so much on the internet, right? Telling us let's do it this way, and you've got people doing spray foam that say, "Hey, this stuff isn't really that bad." Well,
Right.
if anybody hears that, they say, look, this guy's an expert, been doing it for 20 years. He thinks it's not that bad. Well, it's all kind of, you know, it's all in metrics. It's all kind of where is your priority? What is bad to you? Right.
Yeah.
And so to me, when I go spray foam, well, foam is a 4-letter word and it's an F word to us for all of our projects. We don't use any type of foam, any type of toxic materials. It's all natural. It's all trying to get this indoor air quality. Not only is it about indoor air quality, but the natural stuff lasts forever,
Yeah.
right? It stays bonded, it stays together, and we're not using fasteners for stone to connect to stone or wood. Real connections, mortise and tenon that don't require glue or fasteners. It's like really going to old school connections. But these builders and architects now, I consult with a lot of them and they send me drawings and I look at their building sections and it's and you know, good for them that they're coming to me, but they really don't know what's going on and they're saying let's just spray foam the whole thing. That's the air barrier, right? Well, no, it's 4 inches and they never give you the full amount. I mean, this we can get into the details all day, all week long, but the issues are not just about the material, the stuff that can actually kill people. I've seen a client collapse because of spray foam, the fumes from it. He just
Oh,
collapsed in front of us. I've had to replace mechanical systems because of the off gassing. It's not just about that. It's about proper install. And that goes for everything. You know,
yes.
like you can have a perfect system, but unless that system is executed perfectly, nothing's going to work. It doesn't matter what stone, what perfect wood, perfect anything you do. If you don't install, if you don't follow that correct process, nothing's going to last forever. So there's always, it's like, no, it's not the foam's fault, but yeah, it kind of is because as itself, it's a terrible thing to have in your house. Why would we build with plastic?
Right.
You know, like, why are we doing this? And we just continue to make more plastic products and plastic systems. Oh, now let's put it on the
Look
outside
at
of
our clothes now. I mean, even go into any store
the
right now. It's hard to find natural products, like
yeah,
natural, like cotton, 100% cotton shirt. It is
yeah,
not easy or 100% linen. What we have on our bodies, never
Yeah,
mind like what we're sitting on our
sure.
sofas and our chairs, and the natural materials are just harder and harder to
It,
actually find, and they're more
well,
expensive.
they are, and it was like organic food. It was so hard to afford, and now it's becoming more affordable. It's becoming almost like you see more and more of it in the regular grocery store.
No, that there is we're in this situation where we're really trying to yearn for things that are well made. I mean, aren't you finding that same thing?
Yeah. So I had a friend visit me from Finland, and she was looking for a pair of shoes. And as she was shopping, she's like pulling things apart at the seams to see if it was, like how well it was made. And I feel like, because when a lot of in Europe and other parts of the world, when they buy something, they want it to be theirs for a long time. They don't want to have to buy it again. They're not as
Yes.
they don't have that sort of
Consumer.
throwaway, throwaway
Yeah.
society mentality, and they value good things. And we're seeing a lot of clients, the current client I've told you about, they're wanting these things that they don't fall apart. They don't cause them to be sick. They want to be comfortable. They want to be happy. There's a lot of research that shows that living in a house that is all of these things reduces the amount of time you visit the hospital. Like you live longer.
Yes.
And so it's not just about health, because this same client said no to plaster, even though hey, look, you've got some health benefits, like no toxicity at all. We're fine with paint. But
Yes.
they still value good indoor air quality, but they just don't want to go to that level. But at the same time, they want their house to last because it's all concrete. We're doing
Yes.
concrete block, concrete roof, everything concrete. So that thing lasts through hurricanes, doesn't fall down. And it is. People want that. Of course, some people with budgets that can't afford that come to us and say, I want that too. I said,
Yes.
okay, we'll go away, save some more money, and come back to me.
Yes. I,
You
I I
know,
think and that's a really important thing for our listeners who are in the interior design profession, that you have an immense amount of education on YouTube also, where
yeah,
you're giving great advice on building questions, but you also do consults with the design industry, architects, builders, to
yeah,
designers who are having some construction questions
yeah,
and really want that path to quality product, and quality installation. I just see I think we all are seeing a lot of, really scary building practices and how that will trickle down. It feels like everything is slapped up. It feels like it's so shoddy, and that trickles down into furniture too. I feel like I'm one of the lone people fighting dupe.com, because I see them posting they have these like bot videos of that it looks like a real person. She's like, my best friend's an interior designer, and she found this secret hack.
oh
Go to
my gosh.
dupe.com and you can get everything. It's white labeled. It's the same thing for less money. And I'm always screaming at the video like, no, it's not.
It's not.
You're not getting a,
No.
hardwood dry kiln
Yeah.
like sofa with
Yeah.
down and cotton and all of those natural fibers for $600. It's just not happening. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. That's
Yeah.
just the reality of the situation. I wish it was for you. But like you said earlier, that, organic foods used to be so hard to obtain and so expensive,
Expensive.
and now are so readily available. We can get it at Aldi, we can get it at Trader Joe's, we can get it at every grocery store inexpensively. And maybe if the American people demanded better in building materials and furniture, it would trickle down, that those prices would come down too.
Yeah. Yes. And you said it. The demand is everything. When
Yes.
because our clients are demanding this, the architect, clients, interior designer clients, all the clients that we have, from consulting to full on architectural services, we've now have this reputation of what you see on our different channels, and they are demanding these things.
Yes.
They're not settling for second best. They don't trust people on, these other builders. They're hiring me. I spent 4 or 5 years as a GC because a homeowner said, "Who's going to build this house that you've designed for me?" And I didn't really know, truly didn't know anybody who could execute it without my help. So she said, "Well, could you do it for me?" And
Right.
so I got a license and I built her house, about half a dozen others, and $5 million off-grid homestead. And through all of that, of course, it's knowing how this stuff goes together. Now I work with builders. So homeowners can hire me to work with their builder, help them hire a builder to know whether they've got it all together and ready to do what they're wanting to do. Interior designers, same thing, because I'm always wearing my architect hat, my designer hat, HVAC designer hat, builder hat, all of those things are, I'm wearing them all at the same time as I'm thinking through this. And so when homeowners are looking for a builder or a design, anything, they can say, look, I need someone who can really execute what I'm asking for. And that's, healthy, durable, but I want it to be beautiful too, and
Yeah.
that's our new, on our website, we just launched a new website, and one of our sort of, I guess, our mission statement, if you will, but we have a page dedicated to timeless design, timeless by design, and timeless is an acronym. It's each letter stands for something, and it basically sums up that it's beautiful, it's durable, it's healthy, it's comfortable, and this is the house that people really are looking for. And now that we've done all of these things, from architecture to interiors to building science consulting, forensics, seen how houses fall apart and know what not to do, and then the construction to be able to execute it, we can now sort of train people,
Yes.
the builders, that even if they've never done anything like this before, give me some time with them and they will do a good job.
Yes.
Just got to keep me involved and make sure the builder knows that they have to listen to me.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
because I do have the knowledge.
That breadth of knowledge is everything. And I know you do even consulting for people who are like looking to purchase homes too, to
Yes.
make sure that they are the safe thing for that person to do.
Yeah.
So, and I think there's a lot of designers that are kind of thinking that might be a good thing for their clients too, to like work with someone
Yeah.
who can spot the mistakes before the purchase. And we
Yes.
even tell the designers how to market their own services before, because sometimes you're just, the floor plan's just not the right floor plan, and it's going to cost a lot more to fix what's there, rather
Mm.
than finding the right base before,
Yeah.
if you're not doing new construction, if you're going to renovate when
Sure.
you purchase, to find the right home, so that you can do the things you actually want to do and live the way you want to live
Yeah.
in the home.
Yeah. Well, you can have it all. That's what I say to people, because they're wanting, like, one of the biggest things in forensics, one of the biggest failures we've found is certain types of wallpaper on an exterior wall, because
Yes.
because your wall is full of insulation and it's slowing the energy that's going through the wall. And, you've got a vapor barrier right there, and it's stopping the moisture that wants to go through, and it gets trapped in there. And so whereas it just stays there, and then it just rots, decays, and mold and all of those things. But there are ways there's obviously paper drywall. There are other vapor open materials, but this is where, again, education and just not knowing what you don't know. And that's okay.
Yeah.
As an architect, they train us in the exam not to know everything.
Yes.
Even though we act like we do, they train us not to memorize everything in the code or everything about, but they teach you how to know where to look for things, for all of the answers, right? In
Yeah.
the code, how to search the building code, how to call the right person. And it's okay to not know. And that's something I've talked to a lot of designers and architects. It's like, please ask every question that you have. Don't think that you're going to sound like an idiot to me, because
Right.
I didn't know all this, 20 years ago.
Right. And
My wife,
honestly, I feel like you and Jody were cutting edge. I'm seeing a lot more design build, architect build design firms, some people coming together and collaborating and building companies now that offer that full service to the client.
yes,
But I feel like you were early in that game of being multidisciplined and being able to be a solution, a solution provider for luxury building. Before I was seeing it I'm seeing it
Right.
like everywhere now, architects bringing on contractors and designers to work for them, or any other variation. Sometimes it's the designer that has a contractor on staff
Yeah.
and an architect on staff. So it can go all the different ways, but having the ability to provide the total
Yeah.
package solution under one brand seems to be a trend. Are you finding that seems to be a trend out there with your peers?
Yes, and I've done some consulting as a project manager, construction project manager for an architect friend of ours who took on a construction company. And this is around COVID when things were really slow.
Yes.
And so like the only thing going was what they had. And so said, hey, I'll help you out. So they put me in charge of running construction jobs for them. And it's a brilliant matchup. And, for us, we're finding clients when we talk to them, we say, okay, we'll design your house. And if you want us to, we can build it. And immediately they jump on it. They said, I don't even want to interview any other builder. I don't even want to ask you about that. We trust you with your design. We've watched all your videos. We know that you know what you're doing. And we had no idea that you built too, but now that we do, we're 100% in.
Having advice from someone else that is a professional, I feel like, is so key. And also love that you just said, don't be afraid to ask what you think might be dumb questions, or that you think might make you look bad,
Right.
to ask.
Yes.
Be vulnerable and
Yeah.
ask any question you need of professionals that are there. What is your typical, let's just say a designer calls you and says,
Yeah.
I have some building questions. I have some, I've seen you on YouTube. What would where would it come from? Like, here's a little free advice to, okay, this is a paid consultation. And what
Sure.
is that hourly rate? How do you do that?
We start with, let's see what you need. If a lot of times somebody knows they want an hour of my time.
Yeah.
And so we send out we ask them to pay $500 for an hour.
Yeah.
Because there's the lead up, there's reading the email that they sent, and then there's follow up. So, I'm right now, like on our project, we've got a billable rate of $500,
Yeah.
For being architects, interior designers, HVAC design, the whole works.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I tend to, so 350 to 500 is where our rates are. And it depends on what we're doing. When it gets into
I think that's industry standard for most of the luxury builders I know. I mean,
sure,
you can start out at 5, or I've even seen as high as like in the 9s. But if you're creative directing and you're just like doing huge projects versus, when it comes right down to it, if you have like a huge project,
sure,
that's going to get wheedled down.
Yeah.
Likely right around that 350-ish, 400.
Yeah, sure. We try to make, when it comes to consulting, that's always difficult, especially when people with what I found is that people with more money, they tend to like lump sums.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's sort of like they tend to worry less about the size of that sum, but they want it to be fixed,
Yes.
and they're like, don't nickel and dime me with your hourly rates. I want to know how much. Okay, then I'm going to pad it because I don't know if you're going to need a lot of attention or a little attention quite yet. So I'm going to add a little extra in there, what I think it's going to take me.
30%, by the way. 30%
there you go.
is the average that you should probably be overestimating.
That's right.
Because, I think that designers are constantly, and builders and contractors are constantly bidding, based on best case scenario, and best case scenario rarely happens. So then you're trying to make it up by speeding it up. And that's when shoddy work gets done.
Yeah. Well, and when you're just offering sort of written advice, and then it gets into scrutinizing that written advice, and there's like question after question after question. Oh, okay, now can you do this? Now can you do that? Well, there's this idea that, okay, well, I thought that I paid your 4 hours of time, that's the fee, and I just keep asking you questions. And, if I don't make that clear at the start, that's partially my responsibility, right?
Yes.
I gotta be clear about it and saying, look, you got 4 hours, or it's 1 hour on on this meeting, and then I'll follow up with you one time with additional information or one question. Sure, that's no problem. And send me stuff before the meeting, and I'll review it on my schedule, and, like, be ready for the call.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
And so then, but, I've talked about this on another podcast about, you just have to be very careful about, oh yeah, call me anytime. No, no,
Oh
no.
yeah. Oh my gosh.
Like, call me anytime when you're ready to pay for it, is how
And
you finish that.
it's certainly something that we have conditioned ourselves to do socially too, to
Yeah.
just give and be available, and the friendly factor. And I think we've conditioned ourselves to say, "Oh, no problem. Call anytime. I'm here anytime you need to talk.
Mhm.
And we just are, it's almost like filling in silence. We don't mean call us anytime. you
Yeah,
know,
that's right. No,
it's a,
it's
it's a,
a, it's,
one of our USA, friendly things that we do here in the States, but it doesn't, as a designer, you have to train yourself to be
yes,
very clear with the language that you use so that people have the expectation and that you're
yes,
setting boundaries in everything that you're doing. And every single part of how you run a business needs to have these like very clear, tight
totally.
boundaries around how we communicate. And so that I remember interviewing a designer who does a lot of high-end luxury, and she's great about also putting out content out there, Mrs. Prawn to pay Laurie. And she talks a lot about what things really cost. And I really commend her because she gets ripped apart
Mm,
for it too by saying, this is
yeah,
what that actually costs. And people
yeah.
will be in the comments saying, I have a luxury house and it didn't cost that. And you're like, ma'am,
What's luxury? What
what's
is
luxury to you
luxury?
is not necessarily luxury to my clients. But
It's true. And
yeah,
there is, that's a huge, the language, what you're saying, the language, all of our lingo that we use, and the word luxury is not the same to anyone.
no,
No one out there has the same definition of luxury, because I
no,
even say sometimes luxury starts with comfort. Luxury starts with, I mean, so it's, what's your audience?
yes,
Like, the true luxury is to sit on your couch, be comfortable, and be happy.
yes,
That's and it has everything to do with your environment and the air quality and everything else, that's, and the couch you're sitting on, and the painting you're looking at on the wall, and the plaster finish or not, and those
yes.
things.
But
And
there's
so,
also a degree between the millionaire version of luxury and the
oh,
billionaire version of luxury.
yeah, that's for sure.
First class versus private jet for different
Yeah,
luxury.
that's right. It's true.
You can have your little jet boat, or you can have your yacht that is for 35 people can sleep there.
Yeah,
There's different versions of luxury for everything.
that's
And
right.
we have to figure out sometimes what our client's version of luxury is,
Thank
and
you.
how we can address what they need, but also in a way that we're dealing with people. And I say this all the time. If you're listening on the podcast, I know you've heard this before, but there's a huge income disparity between the clients and us.
Mhm.
And so that becomes contractual, that becomes boundary setting business. So you need to have that language be incredibly clear. You need to be able to be very, very clear with those clients, so that, because you're talking about money and contracts
True.
and services, and with people who have a lot more to spend
Yeah.
to ruin you if they wanted to.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and I'll say something about that I think is also important for anyone who hasn't experienced a legal situation, because it's, we have a structural engineer who sends his agreement in an email. It's one paragraph. We're going to design the structural of this building for X amount of dollars, and just reply to this, say yes, or they don't even say that. And like,
Yeah.
what, don't you have a contract? Why aren't you doing that? Right. And so then I was, one of the projects that we did in HVAC design, the client the client sued the builder and everybody that was involved with the project.
Yes.
And we were tagged in that law, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter that we did nothing wrong. Okay.
Right.
And we had a contract with the builder like we were consulted by the builder to design the mechanical system. And so then then when we got sued, they came after us for like $200,000.
Right.
And the contract says that the builder is supposed to have our back. They're
Yes.
supposed to protect us and go fight for us and, go through the legal stuff for us. And can only be sued for the amount of our contract, which at the time, 15 years ago, was $7,000. Chump
Wow.
change, right? It was like
Wow.
nothing. Well, they got through all of that. The contract might as well not have been written because
Right.
they got their $200,000.
Wow.
And we had to file a claim. And same with, one other lawsuit that it was like, it doesn't matter what's in there, that, they
Well,
will.
I have a very good friend, Wendy Estella, who is she's an interior design attorney, and she specializes, if you're thinking about getting a contract, she's so good. I really, really like her because she specializes in our industry. But
Okay.
she will say to anyone, a contract doesn't prevent anyone from suing anyone. Anyone
No,
can sue anyone for anything. And, it
it's
doesn't
true.
mean that you'll win. And sometimes if someone has a longer chance to keep it going than you do, and you want to get out at the cheapest price, sometimes that's what you do. But I mean, sometimes you can just waste their time too. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
like depends on
Yeah.
if you're going to hire an attorney yourself, if you're going to try to fight it yourself, if you're going
Sure.
to, there's all these ways to figure this out. You do have to answer, obviously, but there are ways to figure out how you want to navigate this. But at the end of the day, your contract is just a parameter that your two parties are agreeing to. It doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to be able
Yeah.
to be sued ever. That's just not the case.
Yeah, I mean the attorney. I've dealt with attorneys that don't know a thing about construction law, and so they just make stuff up. They use different law from different industries, different sectors, and it works. They got lucky, and it's just they can throw anything at it, and they can just and of course the people with money can throw the money at it and just sort of say, well, now I
Yeah.
want the same thing happened to
Especially at
us.
the highest level. I mean,
Yeah.
I have a very dear friend who, her husband's a contractor, and he does, big, billionaire type projects. And they build in because every project, I'm talking like 95% of them end up in lawsuits, like every single one. Which
Wow.
I can't even imagine at that level, that you're just like, okay, well, at some point there's going to be some lawsuit because this is a huge, huge, huge project. And
Yeah.
they build into their billing the cost of covering for the lawsuit, which is
Wow.
insane to me. I can't even imagine. But when you're talking homes that are, 50,000 square feet or something crazy, you're thinking, that at some point there's going to be disputes between somebody on that
Yeah.
project.
Right.
It's just something's going to go nasty. So, and they're years long, right? I mean, they're years long. So
Yeah. Well,
it's
and when I went into when I became a GC, I had so many people say don't do it, but I said, well, you're probably right, but at the same time, all these poor homeowners, I'm like, I don't really have a solution for them. There's no one that can
yeah.
do what they're looking for, and
Well, you
now
had
we're
just such a level of quality in mind,
right.
from the concept all the way to the completion. You had this like,
Correct.
and I think you're right. I think it's very few and far between.
Yeah, well, I think
Yeah.
there's also that gap between what we put on paper and what the builder then executes, because there's always, oh, well, let's save money, let's do this, let's do that, or they can find it cheaper, to make them more money, right? They'll
Yeah.
find ways to say, okay, well, here's the budget, but if I can save money for myself, I'm going to do that as well. So the corners get cut where the owners don't really know, and they'll say, oh, you'll be fine, right?
Right.
They think that they've got it where, okay, well, I can just tell them, no problem. We got, you're going to be all right. I know what the drawings say, but I've done this before. It'll be all right,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so now we kind of serve more like an owner's agent,
Right.
where I don't actually babysit current client wants me to be the foreman on this project, foreman slash full-time architect CA slash interior design CA, whatever.
Wow, all the hats
It's like, that's fine. Just be ready to compensate equal, the right
for
amount,
that level of,
like
you're
don't,
asking me to
yeah.
do that, it's going to cost,
Yeah, you're asking an architect and a designer, an HVAC designer, all those people, a former GC, to be your foreman. Don't pay him a foreman's rate,
Right,
But
right.
we haven't gotten to that. He's not that type of person, but does happen with these builders who look for, I'm going to pay you this, and even though you're qualified up here, I'm going to pay you down here because that's
Right.
all I can do, and I'm going to make you work harder than I'm paying you down here.
Yes,
And
and
then
I
that's where
think
they're,
that a lot that happens while Chris, I can appreciate that happens to everyone in our industry. And I think that's where compromises get made and people start to be going, they go fast for the work or they buy cheaper materials. And it's in part not just because of them, it's the homeowner too, pushing that narrative. And then are we doing such a great job in our industry saying no?
right,
Are
right.
we doing a good job at that?
It's so hard to do, especially when you're struggling or when you really want to, like, not everybody is a Frank Lloyd Wright or somebody who's just like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if I starve. I'm not going to, artists who just stick to their guns and say, no,
Yeah.
this is my vision. I'm not going to, if you don't want it, then don't pay me anymore. I'm going to
Yeah.
walk away from this. You can't. Some people, when you're
You
young,
still
you
have
can do
a
it.
family to feed. You still have the mortgage
Yeah,
to pay.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. So it's a very difficult thing to say. Jody is stellar at it. I
Oh,
will say she will walk away from a big job if they can't agree to our terms because it's not going to work. If,
sure.
and so we have been this close to walking away from some of the biggest fees we've ever had. But it turns around, not only that, but there's even, she'll negotiate for even more,
Yeah. I mean,
and
sometimes
it's
it's those boundary settings. It's that understanding where that agreement is going off the rails and trying to get people back on. And sometimes even saying no or having a boundary.
yeah,
I mean, it doesn't always end in the person saying no. Sometimes the person comes back, thinks about it, and because it might not be, maybe they've built before, but it might, working with you is the first time they've
sure.
done this.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
they want to see how far they can push.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
find this a lot in the design world because, there'll be a designer. I was talking to a designer today and she, remembers early on in her career and someone saying how they couldn't have, wanted free advice from her and they were so broke and, oh, I can't afford to buy my kids new shoes. And I just really, could you come over and help me with this design problem?
right.
And then she went over there and she gave a bunch of advice for free. And the person bought a boat the next
Oh my
day. And she
God.
saw that they bought a boat the next day. And she thought, what the heck am
Yeah,
I doing? And luckily that was earlier in her career.
yeah,
And so she amended that behavior quickly.
right,
Like
right, right, right.
this person's lamenting about their inability to pay you is
Yeah,
really they don't value what you do
yeah,
and they think
right.
it should be free. And
Absolutely.
that's okay that they don't value it, but
Yeah,
then they don't get it.
yeah.
You
That's
don't
right. No,
value it, you don't get
100%.
it.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's the same with like the very first initial site meeting or initial client meeting when they say, hey, will you come and see? We want to do some renovations. We want to, do an addition. And they, it's invite us over for talk for an hour or 2 hours
Yeah.
sometimes. And now we charge
Yes.
and charge more than our hourly rate for those. And not because we know there's lead up time. There's going to be follow up time, again, covering
Yes.
ourselves for that 30%, but
Extra.
we
Yeah.
always say yes for this amount of money. Well, we charge $2,500 sometimes for the two of us to go. So 2 architects coming to your house. We're going to spend 2 hours there easily. We're going to give you ideas, right? And you can't, I mean, that's where designers, that's what people are paying for, is the
Right.
ideas, so that's the most valuable thing we have, that people, that's why they come to us, and efficiencies and other things, but
Right.
but the ideas
This isn't
are
your first rodeo. You're doing it with experience. So you're not going to even be able to stop yourself from saying, well, you could do
yeah,
this or you could do this or
yeah. Well, and you can take all of those creative ideas and run and never call us again.
right.
So
Right.
we're gonna put a value on that visit to say,
Right.
look, we're not just charging you by the hour for this visit. We're charging you for all of these ideas that we are for sure going to give you. Go pop a top, why don't you do this? Oh, never thought of that. Well, there you go. There's $2,500 worth it right there.
Right.
You got this one idea that you had no idea, and now it's just breakthrough. Ideally, we get both, we get the best of both. We get the money and we get the job,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because that's how that works,
Yeah.
but we've stopped going to these site visits, these initial introductions for free, and we've lost people. They're like, no, we're not. Okay. I mean,
Okay.
then it means we're probably not going to get along anyway,
Yeah.
because
You don't
that,
value my
yeah,
time.
that's it. Yeah.
So
So we
how
have,
has it been working as a husband-wife team? Like I see a lot of that through the design community and
yeah.
I think it's lovely to see. I mean, it's always tricky to work with your
Yeah.
spouse, but I think it's lovely to see when it works well. And it's such does it add for Jody, does it add that feeling of, well, they're not going to argue with Chris as much as they might push back on Jody, or is that a dynamic
Hmm.
that doesn't exist, or how does that work for you two?
So much to unpack there.
Yeah.
Well, so first of all, like we've been working together beyond just LG squared. We worked at firms together. One of the big things that helps us all along the way is that we really like each other, right?
Yeah.
And so everything we do is together. So, and we like that, and so she started the business. So we had some competition issues early on because I had my way of doing things based, because I was working at other firms. She was working on her own and it was her business. And I'm bringing in all this work and I'm saying, hey, I think it should go this way. And sometimes I'll go into her drawings that she's done and I'll change things because that's the way I'm used to doing them. And so that was a lot of early on. We had to work through some of those growing pains of working under, having her be the boss.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I don't ever want to be my own boss. I cannot do it. I want to be the creative. I want to do my job, but I don't want to run a business. I don't want to do that part of it. And she's really good. It's her business 100%. And we're now kind of made it to the point where it's like, I contribute. She asks me questions about what do you think? But we have this certain trust of she can ask me any question without feeling, like on structure, on technical stuff, on the stuff that's really my specialty or it's been my focus for a while. And she doesn't have to feel like that's a dumb question. Same thing. I do this with everybody. I'm just like, please just ask because I have never, not always known this stuff. I
Right.
want to share. I want to teach. And so that has been a huge benefit to this relationship. Her accepting that I know things and she knows things, and me accepting that it doesn't have to be the way that because I was being a little stubborn about it, but only because I didn't know how to make it work otherwise. And like, well, but my brain says I got to do it this way because that's how I see the drawing or that's how I see it organized. And so it became this, and she's like, well, fine, then you just do all the drawings. Got it. Well, I don't want to do that either. So that was early on. And now it's a really good dynamic. And the clients that we have now found us through I do all of the social media stuff.
Right.
She doesn't like this at all. Like
Right.
she's like, you'll find me, you wouldn't find me, whatever. Doesn't love it. So I do all that. And this client found me through YouTube.
Yes.
And then we had our first meeting or chat or whatever. And we met with them at their house. This was so cool. At their house with their children. And they wanted us all to get to know each other at the very start because
Oh,
they are a
wonderful.
huge part of the process. The girls are a big part of it. They've got design ideas and they're like answering all of the questions. And so when we first met, one of the things that the wife, yes, Barbara, what she said was, I love that I have someone too, because the husband has me, and we
Right.
talk about all this sort of how the house is going to get
Structural
built,
and yeah.
and kind of the geeky norm stuff. And we also love our good architecture, and we're always talking about good design ideas. He and I are. But when she found out that Jody was a part of it, she was like, oh my gosh, this project's gonna go well.
Right.
This is not their first home. They actually have a couple right now, but they like designing and building houses. And
Right.
so this is the first time that they've had a duo like this.
Right.
So having the sensitivities of the female sensitivities, the male sensitivities, and then our different ideas, from interior to exterior and all of that, we work really well. It's a very yin and yang, perfect balance of ideas, of expertise.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a learning, and not just with a spouse either. I think as a designer gets onboarding, maybe your first employee who becomes your right hand,
Yeah.
and then it becomes a little bit more. I think even more special if it's a spouse because you can,
Yeah.
if it works so well,
Yeah. It
But I
does.
also have seen, it's just a different it's a different sort of trajectory and a skill set when you are managing
Yes.
versus
Yes.
working or being a solo entrepreneur. And then you have to think of other people's feelings and work well together and be respectful. And that's a tricky thing. I get, as we have questions of the day all the time. And
Yeah.
sometimes I know where the bodies are buried, and designers will share with me like bosses that are really difficult to work for, and I happen to know their boss.
Yeah.
you know, so those things I zip my
Yeah.
mouth and say
Yeah.
nothing, but I do know, and I feel for both sides because I
Yeah.
feel for the person who's going through the challenge of working with someone who has a very strong vision about what they want and maybe lacks the coping mechanisms to be able to not to be able to regulate their emotions
Yeah.
in that process. But I also know what it's like to to have a passion for something, and your name is on the door, and
Yeah.
the worries are yours and the finances are yours, and that's really tricky too. And so navigating that it's not easy. It's not as
No.
easy as one would think. And it's certainly not a skill set that you just are born with. You have to
Yeah.
learn so much when you are responsible for
Sure.
nurturing a person underneath you and helping them grow and helping them get better and learn and giving them the tools to learn,
Yeah.
and not, the expectation are not the expectations are not crazy at the same
Yeah.
time. You have to be reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. And that's, I think, the having that respect for someone, in our situation, having the respect of, hey, we have something to teach each other here. It's not, there isn't one that, like having her input on some of my projects. Who knew, like, that could be a good thing? Like, I'm designing a mechanical system and she'd have some input on, hey, what about this? So having the respect and really, and knowing that there's so much growth still to be had within the company and within from each other, that and so getting past all of that sort of, that we have to know everything because
Or the
that's,
ego part of
yes,
that.
the ego. Thank
The
you.
ego. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, my
That,
husband and I have worked together in the past, and I remember early days. He started working for me, and I was his manager, and I just was terrible at it. I hated
yeah.
it. He hated it. It
Right.
was really just very. I mean, we weren't married back then, but it was just really hard to
Yeah.
manage how. In fact, I went to my boss and had him split off to work for my boss directly.
Oh, wow.
I just
Wow.
didn't like it so much that we just bat heads because my
Yeah.
objectives and his objectives were so different. But
Yeah.
now, we've been together for 26 years. So, I mean,
Wow.
it's different
Congratulations. Yeah,
now.
we just made it to 25.
Yeah, yeah.
We just, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So when you've been together for a long time, it's kind of like,
Yeah. Well, that's Well, as long as you grow together, because
Yes, you have to grow together, but it's the
yeah,
work of growing together and
so
growing
much.
through the problems and
Yeah.
communicating
Yes.
and, being able to be fair about
Yeah.
communication. That I think that's true for marriage. I think that's true for business partners. I think it's true for employees and employers. Those are things that you have to both want that healthy relationship
Sure.
to happen and to work together and be able to communicate respectfully.
Like in the first year of marriage, I said, well, relationships, they shouldn't require work. They just should just happen, right? And they shouldn't require people to work at it.
Yeah.
And my goodness, was I just,
Naive.
endorse like, no, 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 sir, that's not
Yeah.
how it works.
No.
And it came from a good place, like, oh, if
Yeah.
you love each other, you just love each other. You shouldn't have to work at loving each other. Well, that was what I was saying. I was saying, oh yeah, the relationship shouldn't require work. It should just be natural. Well, this relationship has required that kind of work, and
Yeah.
it has been it has grown a lot. There's been so much up and down, and the main thing is sticking together through all of it, because we did, two lawsuits. One of them cr- uh, resulted in serious PTSD. I didn't want to do architecture. I didn't want to look at a construction site. It was so hurtful. It's so
Yeah.
harmful to my
Soul.
soul. And so, like, and we were both hurt by it because it affected the company, and they were saying mean things about her too.
Yeah.
So through it all, it was like, okay, well, I need help. Oh, well, so do I.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we just, those are the toughest times, when you're both in a position to, well, you're the one I lean on, but I need I need to be here for you. That's tough,
That is really
but,
hard. And I think every
stick.
marriage, every partnership goes through moments like that are
That's
just
right.
really, really tough to navigate. My husband and I talk about how wonderful it is also to be on the other side. It's so strange if you're the type of person who does get stronger
Yeah.
and can get through those really hard times when one person needs help and the other person can't help. I mean, we've been through it ourselves. So
Yes. Yes.
we definitely know what that's like. And, it's not easy. It's a really, really hard thing, but there's so much goodness on the
Yeah.
other side of
Yes.
learning communication skills. And, I can't even tell people like who haven't been married for over 20 years
Yeah.
what it's like to be on this side of it
Yes.
when
Yeah.
you're raised your kids and you're done with the thing.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
just like, okay, we just
Yeah.
have we are each other's best friends. We just we love to do everything with each other. We get along. We don't really fight often anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We just don't, it's not that we don't disagree about certain things, but the way it doesn't ever escalate. It never escalates to anything
Yeah.
bigger or more scary because we just are already through all of the worst parts, I think, of the most stressful parts of being a couple and how great it is. I always think of how lucky we are, but it
Yeah.
wasn't luck. It was work.
Yes.
you
It
know?
was a lot of, and it still is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even it'll always be, and
Yeah.
not going to be perfect. Communication. I'll say this also, that what Jody taught me more than anything was communication, which I was just not. I didn't like to open up. I
Yeah.
kept it all bottled inside, and it caused problems with members of my family when they didn't open up. Then things exploded when they finally did. And
Sure.
so I learned early to start communicating and being just everything on the table. Now she knows me better than I do, that kind of a thing,
Yeah.
because I talk about everything and we talk about everything
Well,
together.
it's
And
a totally different generation too, like
yeah,
generationally and how we change too. I mean,
yeah,
our, Gen X people, we were, they say the feral children. We were out there in the streets, parents not caring where we were. And,
yeah,
we weren't taught to have those communication skills. Our parents, the boomers, were silent, they were raised by the silent generation. They were the
yeah,
baby boomers,
yeah,
so their way of like just, go off and do your thing and we'll do our thing didn't really lead to those kinds of
right,
things. So
right,
our kids were tried to lead with a lot of like understanding and
yeah,
empathy and support where that we didn't
yeah,
have,
yeah.
but is that better or worse?
Well, I will say this too, because I've had a subcontractor when I was on a job site. He was the HVAC contractor, and this ties in, I promise.
Yeah.
But he was, you know, the communication, but being nice, or being the asshole boss or the asshole GC, right? So I don't like confrontation. I'm not good at it. I prefer just going the nice way. This is why, you know, it works with a lot of people, because they know they can just ask me anything and I'm not going to be upset with them or anything like that. But this guy, it took me so long to ask him to just clean up after himself, because I was trying to be so nice about it. You know, I'm like, oh, just, you know, beating around the bush. And eventually he caught on, or he knew what I was trying to do. And he stopped me and he says, dude, are bad words on okay here?
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Is being a sailor okay here? So
Yes.
he said, be a dick. Just tell me to clean my shit up.
Right.
And I was like, okay,
Well, sometimes
well,
being
just go
clear
ahead, do
is
that.
kind. Like that's what I tell the designers too. Being clear is kind. And sometimes when you're beating around the bush because you're afraid to say what the things
Yeah.
cost, or you're afraid to say how long things
That's
are
right.
going to take, or what the process really looks like, because you're afraid they're going to say no, because you need them to say yes, because you need the money. You know, all of those things can hurt you in the long run.
Yeah.
Being clear is kind. Like, these are the boundaries. This is what's happening. This is what I need from you. You
Yeah.
don't always have to say it in a mean way, but you should say it, and you should be
Yes.
clear
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that.
I had a comment this morning from pretty well-known guy on does a lot of YouTube stuff, and he and I were DMing about my content recently, and he says, I'm really digging your quiet rants, you know, and it was like, that's pretty neat, you know, because
Yeah,
he knows that I'm trying to to say
statement.
something, but I'm
Yeah,
always
yeah.
trying to deliver it in a way that is, you know, that is like, you know, not, you know, saying mean things about anybody doing anything wrong, you know, because what do I know? I don't know all that. I mean, that's not my position to say what's wrong and right, but just being able to express these things and say, you know, these are real. These are real things that we need to worry about. But I don't need to be at the top of my lungs and being a sailor and doing like just
No,
I
I
can
think
do
your
it.
tone is so comforting. I think people like that on for video content too. But
Yeah.
to be explained what an expert really, you know, that infotainment part of content. And
Yeah.
I love, by the way, that you do this content. I've been trying to get designers to do content themselves. I feel like, you know, I just got back from New York City, where I taught a group of designers how to make video content.
Cool.
Because I think it really cuts to the chase, like getting people to like, know, trust you
Yeah.
faster.
Yeah.
They can figure out what you stand for, what you are doing for them, because I don't think the average everyday person really understands our industry that well. And
Mhm.
so we need a lot of explainers. We need a
Yeah.
lot of, this is what it is, and this is
Yeah.
how long it takes. And you can just be priming someone to come into your world.
Yeah.
Yes, you're going to turn people away too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's part of it, because people
Sure.
are not going to agree with you, or they're going to think, you know,
Yeah.
they did it a different way, but that's okay. You
Yeah.
know, turning people away is the point too. Those aren't your people,
That's right.
but the
That's
right
right.
people are, you know, that are really
Yeah.
hearing you and getting it and getting what you stand for. So I love that you do that, Chris. And
Thank you.
I'm going to make sure our entire audience, you know, they pay attention to you, follow you. I'm
Thank
going
you.
to make sure that you get all of our links. And I just thank you so much for coming on. This
Of
has been so great.
course. Oh, this has been so fun. Do you need to see the chateau?
I do. I mean,
Does the audience, do the people need to see what's going on behind the scenes?
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. I mean,
I
the
figure
chateau.
I figure this is the only reason we're on this call anyway. Like that's the only reason you
Yeah,
wanted
I
to.
am living vicariously.
Yes, I figured as much. Okay, so let me open up. There we go. Okay, that
Oh,
is yes, that's the back of that beauty. So
oh
I
gosh.
think, as you know, these were all real estate photos, but that right there is our little apartment. There are 24 of them in this building. It's in Southwest France, about an hour and a half east of Bordeaux.
Oh,
And so that's the back. Another shot of the back. Let's see, did it pop up? Let's see. let's see, we can just cycle. There's the gate.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful gate. Another shot of the back. I'll show you inside. So that's the lobby.
Wow.
The door on the left here, that's our apartment, and the main entrance is right there. So we get right off the
It's
entrance.
like it's gorgeous for those just listening. It's a gorgeous French chateau, like very traditional.
Yes.
It's stunning. It's massive,
It
and the interiors are
now
breathtaking.
it's
You're gonna
yeah,
have to
like
go onto YouTube and see the video, or come onto our website and see the video part
yeah.
of this
Oh,
because it's just so beautiful.
I keep forgetting it's as a listening audience. Okay.
No worries. There's both. We have video and
Yeah.
audio for both of this. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and yeah, no, anybody that wants to reach out, and yeah, there are links. I've talked about this on our YouTube channel as well. I've done some video about the chateau, but more to come on that for
Oh,
sure.
it's just so
So,
stunning. I
yeah,
mean, I
yeah,
feel like you guys are living the dream. My husband and I are going to be thinking about it ourselves. We're thinking,
good.
as the kids get older and are become really truly independent, we at least like a part-time place.
It's so easy to do right
Yeah,
now, and I know.
right? I mean, there's so many, and I've always had, I'm building this big monster of interior design community, and someday as it passes on to whatever it becomes, I envision that I've always kind of like thought in the back of my mind, what would you do next, Laurie? What would you do next? And I
Right.
always thought maybe I would have like an artist retreat for designers because it's such a stressful job, and sometimes they do need that like
Nice.
get away from it all and think and be and recover from what is these jobs that sometimes do take it out of you, and the
Yeah.
PTSD is real.
It is so real. Yes, get away, get some time, do the
Find your
self-care
love
thing.
of it
It's
again if
yeah,
you
exactly.
can, and foster that again in
You need
you,
to.
and connect
Yeah,
with other creatives. Sometimes just being with other creatives, it
yeah,
makes me, I love it. I love when I'm in
yeah,
a room with 20 other people who are creatives. I
yeah.
come away always feeling so much energy from that.
And it
So
shows it shows you are the mama bear of this community, and I will just turn it back on you because I know you're the host, but
wonderful.
we appreciate every one of us
Aw.
appreciates what you do. You are a rock star. It's amazing. I don't know how you do it, but it's amazing, and we thank you.
Aw, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And
Yeah.
it really matters to me. These are my people. So I'm just trying to make it my little world a
Yeah.
little bit better every
Good
day.
job. Good job. And yes, thank you so much for
Well,
that.
thank you, Chris. And we're going to make sure everybody has links to follow
Thanks.
you. This has been so fantastic. I really appreciate
Yeah.
your time.
Thank you
And
so
you
much.
guys all got $500 worth of value right now. All
That's right.
right. Bye.
Exactly. Bye.
This episode is brought to you by Curry & Company. Designers, you know the moment. You walk into the room and the lighting stops you in your tracks. Chances are it might be Curry. Curry & Company has built its reputation on pieces that feel sculptural, collected, and timeless, from hand-finished chandeliers to statement lamps, furniture, and accessories. Their collection is top-notch. If you haven't explored their newest introductions, take a look. Visit curryandcompany.com